So let me go ahead and start the recording. Okay, let's start her bio over again. So Melody Robinson Wright Ph.D. is a financial empowerment coach, certified financial education instructor, and the creator of Broke on Purpose. Through bold conversations and the creation of strategic money management systems, Dr. Wright has helped thousands of people stop being aimlessly broke and transform their mindset, behaviors, and practices related to money. She has been featured on the Rachael Ray Show and named a new money expert by Glamour Magazine. Woo woo! So welcome, Melody. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi everyone, again.
I know I'm still trying to get my rhythm together in the introduction.
No, it's good.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Swoop. Okay. So we're gonna dive right into these questions that I have for you, Melody, and I want to start with the fact that even last week this came up about the link between how we manage our resources in our personal life spilling over into how we manage them in our businesses. And that's why I thought it was just so important to talk to and have a conversation with you about personal financial management, because I just know the link between all of us are business owners. We're all trying to figure out our money on the business space, but the way that we manage finances impacts that. So you were the first person, of course, that I thought of to have this conversation. So I'm so appreciative of you being here today. And I would just love to start out with a little backstory on who you are. For those of us who don't know you, aren't familiar with you, if you could just tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get into financial empowerment in the first place, and coaching, and what do you enjoy most about this work?
Yeah, so first, Marlena, thank you for having me on this amazing platform. I'm a big fan of the tribe and the big idea of food. So thank you so much for having me here. So this whole process for me going from a PhD to being a financial empowerment coach actually started while I was in the middle of my PhD program. So I have a background in microbiology, immunology with a concentration in parasitology. So I worked with the malaria parasite, which a lot of people know about, is transmitted through the mosquito. And so in the middle of my PhD, my advisor came to me and he was like, so I think you're going to graduate at the end of the year. And that was news to me, because I'm in the middle of PhD. I'm doing all the work. I know how far I have to go. And I still had a couple more years left. So he said, I think you're going to graduate in December. So I took that news and went home and I said, okay, if I'm going to graduate in December, that means I need to come up with the game plan financially for what that's going to look like. Either I'm going to go directly into a postdoc, I'm going to go into industry, or I'm going to be looking for a job. And that also meant that my student loans were going to start coming back due. So they were going to be coming to fruition again to come back due. So I sat down and I was like, okay, let me look at my finances and look at all these different scenarios so that we can start either saving or start moving stuff around for whatever would happen. And when I looked at everything that we had, I realized that we owed $212,000, and that did not include our mortgage. So that was inclusive of car payments, student loans, personal loans, credit cards, and all that. And that was like a shock to me, because I had no idea how much debt I knew we had debt, but I didn't know how much debt we had, because we never bounced a check. We were able to pay all our bills on time. We were able to do other things, but we never actually sat down and looked at the numbers. So once I had a good hard look at the numbers and I got over the initial shock and anxiety of it all, I realized that I had to quickly come up with a plan for how we were going to get off from under this debt, because it didn't matter what happened after December if we still had this debt. This was like back in March. This is March 2015. And so when I came up with the plan, I was like, first, I'll go to a bank and see if I can get a consolidation loan, consolidate some credit cards together, make my payments smaller, and things like that. And maybe it'll be easier. No banks wanted anything to do with me. I just had too much debt. I was too much of a liability. I was bringing in a student salary, of course, with my husband's salary, but it wasn't enough for them to take on the amount of debt that we had. So I didn't want to turn to my parents or my family because, one, I was embarrassed. Here I am living this life or what appears to be, this life, and I have all this debt. So I didn't want to go to them. So I basically just said, okay, I have to figure this out for myself. So I decided that month of March that I was just going to stop doing any and everything that was not important for my survival. So that I was not going to go out to eat. I was not going to shop. I was not going to just do anything at all that required me to spend money unnecessarily. And I would take whatever money was coming in and put it all towards debt. And so within that first month, I was able to pay off $2,300 of our credit cards. So just by getting really, really strict on everything. And I started blogging about it. I had a lifestyle blog called Being Melody, which was a beauty and lifestyle blog. That's still like low-key active, but not really. And so I started just chronicling my journey. Every month I would post how much I paid off, what the goal was, what I was doing, how I was earning extra money through different side hustles, things like that. And it started to like have a following. And my family started to like pick it up, because every time they would call and say, hey, you want to go here? Or friends would say, hey, let's go do this. I would say, well, I can't because I'm broke. And their response was, well, you're not broke, because if you have money in the bank, people assume that you're not broke. But for us as African Americans, when we broke, that means our money ain't looking right, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm not broke, but I'm broke on purpose, right? So that's where broke on purpose came from, because that saying just kind of stuck, because every time my mom would tell people, well, Melody, she's doing that whole broke on purpose thing where she's not spending any money, but it stuck. And I realized that now I wasn't broke because my situation deemed me to be broke. I was broke because I took any and all extra money and put it towards paying off our debt. So there was a purpose behind my brokenness. And so that's where broke on purpose came from. And so fast forward to December 2017, we ended up paying off over $100,000 in less than 3 years. And in the Go Banking article, the Acorn article that just came out, I talked about how after we paid off that $100,000, we did a pivot and we started to really look at our finances and really cultivate a life where we enjoyed it and we weren't just slaves to paying off debt. And so that's really how my journey began. And throughout that entire process, I would have people come to me and ask me to help them create a budget, ask them to look at their finances, ask me to help them just create some type of order with their money. And that's how my coaching got started. And I really, really love coaching people. I really love seeing them have those aha moments with their money. And most importantly, I just love seeing them be able to live the lives that they dream about. So they're not aimlessly broke, where they're just broke for no reason, but now they're broke because they have a purpose and a plan. And so that's where my financial coaching comes from. And I'm a certified financial education instructor because I would like to take this coaching now into churches and schools.
You're just going to drop off that little nugget. This coaching is going into churches and schools, by the way. I love it, Melody. I love your story. I didn't know until I read the Acorns article that you actually did pivot from like a super hardcore focus on paying off debt to now like, I'm going to allow myself to breathe a little bit and not kill myself, to try to this goal that we've set for ourselves happen. And I think that's so powerful to realize that sometimes you set a goal and sometimes it has a season. Every now and then you might realize that, okay, I've achieved what I really needed to achieve. I got in rhythm with going after this thing, and now I'm going to prioritize myself. So I really appreciated that part of your story. And I actually wanted to ask you, and this wasn't like one of our questions that we talked about, but maybe you can share a little bit on this, but like the role that like being embarrassed about your finances can play and have an effect on how you go after fixing them. Like you said how like, oh, I can't ask my parents for money. They think we're doing all of this, and keeping up a persona can start to play a role in how you're managing and dealing with your finances. Can you talk a little bit about that just briefly? I think that.
Yeah, so I was basically living my best lie, girl. I was living my best lie. Like people thought, oh, she got the handbag, she got the shoes, she's doing this, she's going here, she's doing that. And credit cards were actually giving me access to all of that. I mean, I was making the monthly minimum payment, but that's how I had access to all of it. So it basically was a big lie. I couldn't afford my life. And so I think with the rise of social media, especially when did Instagram first really started in 2011? Like when Instagram first really started, I think that's when more and more people started to fall into this whole, my life needs to look a certain way in order for me to be deemed popular, or for me to be deemed as, you know, having it together, or for people to even take me seriously. And so I think in that era, that's when debt for a lot of people really started to skyrocket. And so, like I said, I was a beauty and lifestyle influencer. And so I was seeing all the time, people would go crazy buying like the latest, you know, beauty collections and things like that. They would put it on credit cards. And for me, that's where a lot of my debt come from, being a lifestyle and beauty influencer. Like I would have to buy this and buy that. So a lot of that debt came from there. But I think the embarrassment and shame of it all is, again, people don't want to take off the mask. And they don't want people to really see what life looks like on the other side, right? And so if we were to come clean and say, you know what, I really can't afford any of this, we're afraid of what people are going to think about us. We're afraid about what people are going to say about us. When in reality, I could turn to you and say, Marlena, I have this much debt. And you'd be like, girl, me too, right? Like everybody has a financial story to tell, but nobody's telling their story, so, because we think talking about money is so taboo. Like even in families don't have open and honest conversations about finances. Now, I'm not saying that your mom has to come to you and talk and tell you where every single penny is going, but if our parents sat down and was like, this is how you budget, this is where the money goes for bills, this is how much we have left, this is why we're able to do X, Y, Z, and really taught you about finances and things like that, these conversations wouldn't be as taboo, and people would have them more openly. Like even now, you see people really pushing to talk about how much money they're making. Like talk about how much you get paid in a role, so that other people will go into this role and make $20,000 left, right? So that's why companies would be like, don't discuss your pay, because they didn't want people to have that power. So once you really know all the information, you have power over that information, and you can guide your life towards doing the things that you want your life to do. And so I think people shouldn't be embarrassed about how much debt they have. We all make financial mistakes. The key is, how are you going to overcome it, and what is your plan for overcoming it? Because I promise you, everybody in this chat right now or in this room has a financial story to tell about a mistake they made, about student loan debt, credit cards, maybe they got into a really bad car loan. Somebody has a story. It might not be the same, but I promise you, we all have one.
No doubt. If you have a financial story, just give us a yes, a head nod, or something in the chat. Because
I see somebody say those student loan refunds. Yeah.
Yes.
Those people would be refund fresh. That's what we call them, refund fresh, because you know they had the new outfits because they just got their student loan refund check, not realizing that they had to pay that back, not realizing all the interest that was accruing based on whatever type of loan you had, not realizing that that new outfit you're wearing that you're not even going to have a year from now, you're going to be paying for it for the next 30 years. Like people, because we don't have these conversations, and because student loan in the colleges, they'd be like, here's a little entrance exam, just, you know, type of little buttons or whatever, or check here, say you understand. They really didn't teach us what this meant to take on the loans. And so that's why I'm here, to just really dismantle all the misbeliefs and miscommunications about money, and to have these open and honest and bold conversations. Like I tell people, this is what it is. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, what are you going to change about it?
I'm just giving you all of the snaps right now. And I just love how God, you know, that I truly believe that predatory lending is it's just such an evil practice. I mean, I can't even believe that it's allowed to happen.
So here in South Carolina, you can have over 200% interest on a loan, I believe. So I've been going to, before we shut down, I was going to different meetings and things about trying to stop predatory lending in South Carolina, because there is no restrictions. They can charge as much interest as they want here in South Carolina. There is no cap. So this is something that I had really been fighting for.
Yeah, it has to stop. And I appreciate the Lord for calling you into this work. Like, this education is so needed, and it's needed at the earliest age possible. So I just appreciate that mission, and definitely support that mission 100%. So, you know, we talked a little bit about that embarrassment piece and just like needing to come behind the mask. And I think that also relates itself to some of the other behaviors that we're doing that are keeping us from thriving in our finances. And I was hoping you could share maybe if there are some additional like common mental barriers, some default behaviors that you have heard your clients experiencing that are keeping them from thriving, and how do you coach them on overcoming them?
Yeah, so first let me start off by explaining what a default behavior is, because a lot of people might not understand what that term is. So a default behavior is your either conscious or unconscious fallback action, right? So let's say that you are faced with something that you've never seen before. Instead of you trying to figure out what to do, you're going to fall back onto what feels comfortable to you, right? So a lot of times with money, we fall back to behaviors that we've unconsciously picked up from people we've grown up with, from family members, from friends, from things like that, or we've seen other people doing, right? So just think about, like, for me growing up, I would hear about floating a check, right? And so I knew how to float a check, even though it was something I never did, but I knew how to do it because it was something that I'd seen my parents do growing up, right? Or I knew how to stretch a dollar to make it to payday. Or I knew that if I put the money in the bank at this time, then it would go on my account, but then I can withdraw it. It was like all these different things that you would learn. So these are your default behaviors, or even how you handle money comes from a default behavior. Like a lot of people turn to credit cards because that's all they saw their parents or their friends doing. They figured if they did it, then that was the right thing to do. And so we've been unconsciously taught bad financial habits that we don't realize are bad until somebody actually points it out to us. So a lot of the default behaviors that I see with my clients is them having to get past what I call superhero syndrome. And superhero syndrome is basically they wait for crap to hit the fan. Like for things like you have this villain in there, he's destroying the entire city, and that's when they call in the superhero who comes in and saves the day, right? So basically they ignore their finances. They see stuff is going on, they see the red flags, but they ignore it until the very last minute, and they think they can come in and swoop in and save the day, and they can't because things are just too far gone, right? And so another default behavior is feeling like you have to be the one to take care of other family members. A lot of times, especially in the African American community, we do things like, I'm going to buy my mom a house, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. But when you're on an airplane, what do they tell you? In case of an emergency, put on your oxygen mask first before you help somebody else. Because if you don't have any air, you can't help somebody else. And so instead of taking care of ourselves, like making sure that we're financially set by saving, investing, doing everything that we need to do, we say, okay, what does grandma need? What does mama need? What does brother need? What does uncle need? Because we finally feel like we're in a position where we've made it. And so we feel like we're obligated to help other people. And so that's something that I really work with helping people get past. It's like, okay, I understand that you want to help people, but there's boundaries to that because you can't help people who don't want to help themselves, right? And a lot of people will look to you as being, oh, well, she got it. She always helps us. She does this. She does that. So why should I? Right? And so those are some of the default behaviors that I work with for people. And also people realizing that they can't afford their lifestyle. Like that's a big one. For a lot of people who have lived a certain lifestyle, it's hard for them to feel like it's okay to, scale down. Even though scaling down is only going to be for a moment, it's a season. And once you meet whatever goal you're in, it's a means to an end. You'll be able to go back to another lifestyle where you can enjoy it and actually afford it.
I'm just trying to gather. Is that superhero syndrome? Whoo! Like
superhero syndrome is big.
Huge. Like, oh, if I just win the lottery, I'm gonna make it. Everything will be fine. And I could talk for days about that because that is definitely something that the Lord, I will say, has helped me to be delivered from. But I still, I'm still working to just like, okay, no, we have to institute behaviors right now today if I want to see the success that I desire in the future. So thank you so much for breaking down what those default behaviors are and like some examples of those. I think those are really, really helpful to hear, especially with most of us being Black women, Black people in general, having to deal with our family and just all of the stuff. So we need to talk about that. Thank you so much for mentioning that. So for those of us who are, we know we need to do something. We need to get our money together, and maybe we're starting to make money more consistently in business, but we still haven't yet built like a sound financial plan or habits. Where would you recommend we start?
So the first thing I would start with is you need to come up with a financial plan. You can probably mimic the financial plan that you have in your personal finances. If you don't have a plan for your personal finances, I would suggest that you start with a book called Profit First. I don't have it in front of me. I wish I would have grabbed it and brought it in the room, but it's a book called Profit First. Now, the great thing about the book Profit First is because it's basically for business owners, and it basically tells you how to set up your money so that you can make a profit and that you can fund other areas of your business. And so the way I have mine set up, it's not exactly like the Profit First method, but the way I have my business set up is that I have different accounts for everything that I'm doing within the business. And so every time money comes in, let's say I have $100 come in. I'm just going to use it because it's an easy number. Let's say I have $100 come in. 25% of that $100 is going to go to taxes. Okay, 10% of that $100 is going to go to tithes, because I always tithe off of whatever I bring in gross in business. I don't wait till net. You brought it in, God, you 10%, right? First fruits. So I give him 10%. And then the rest of that is broken up into everything else that I need to do. So let's say that I know that I have reoccurring fees that are coming from different programs that I have running my business. I put a certain percentage in that account for reoccurring fees. Then I put another percentage in the account for maybe some certifications or other courses or things that I want to take. And then I put another percentage in for profit. How much am I going to take from this $100? How much is going to be mine? And it could be as low as like 5%. It could be like, just $5, but that I have a separate account to have that money in there. Then I have a separate account for like equipment, things like that. So if you have a separate account for each one of these things and you come up with your percentage piece for how much you want to put into each bucket, that's how you can really handle the money coming in. Because now instead of you seeing, oh, I got $3,000 in my business account, you don't see it that way. You see, no, I have $750 in the recurring fees account. I have $300. And so you see it that way, and you can plan your next business moves accordingly, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, you guys can comment and let me know.
Yes. And that's really good. That is also the method that I utilize. I haven't read the Profit First book, but that's a way that I've managed my business income. I manage my business income. It's very smart. But no, that is really powerful. And so when you are creating multiple accounts, that's the thing that I haven't done, is actually break them into multiple accounts. And I think that is so powerful. Do you work with like a national bank for that? Or is that like a local bank that's allowing you to do that?
So it's a national bank. It's actually Capital One 360. Capital One 360, and I can give you guys the link to that to open up your accounts. It is an affiliate link, just to let you know. So it might be a little bit percentage, but so the way Capital One 360 works is that you can open up as many saving accounts as you can. It can be checking accounts or savings accounts. I just do saving accounts because I don't need a card for every single account that I have. And you can move the money over to your checking account, so it doesn't matter. But you can open up different accounts for each one, and each one is going to have their own account number. So these are legit separate accounts, and you can name them however you want to name them. And then when you move the money over, that's how you move the money over into the different accounts. So instead of you seeing, like I said, just that full $3,000 in the one account, because you could be like, oh, I got $3,000. She just came out, but of course that's not, $2,000. That means I can afford it. In theory, when you look at your accounts, you'll be like, no, I can't really afford it because this is what I have broken down for each one. So it breaks it up into a systems view, a systematic view. And this is where my systems comes into play, because I like to see things in orderly process manners. And so being able to look at my account and see where everything is going and see how much I have in each account lets me know what I can plan for in the future, or how much I need to make more of in order to fund something better. Or lets me know, hey, You've already met that goal for this account. So the money that you had going to this account, you can now move and have going into another account. So that's where that system and process comes into play for you to be able to see things laid out in one strategic manner.
Okay. And so let's talk about the systems, because I've heard you speak at length about the necessity of creating a strategic money management system. And I know that is a layered statement. So could you tell us what exactly that is and why it's important?
Yeah, so I call it a strategic money management system. Somebody else might look at it and be like, oh, it's simply just this. But the reason why I call it a strategic money management system is because I always think about Chick-fil-A, right? Think about Chick-fil-A. Think about the Chick-fil-A drive-through. That's just a drive-through. That is a strategic system that they have in place to get you in, to get you that fresh fried chicken and get you out really, really quickly, because you know that line is usually around the corner. Right? So that's their system that they have in place. And even now, I can tell you how Chick-fil-A has pivoted. Usually they have a 2 drive-through where you go in like it's on 2 sides. Now, because they have their dining rooms closed, they turn that front into another drive-through, right? So to meet the demand of people coming to get food. And so you got to think about managing your money like a Chick-fil-A drive-through. It's got to be efficient. It's got to be ease. It's got to be able to give you what you want when you want it, and it's got to be right, just like a Chick-fil-A drive-thru, right? And so that's how I look at money management, managing it like a Chick-fil-A drive-thru. And so when I lay out money management systems for people, I lay it out in such a way that, one, they can look at it and see the ease of it. They don't feel overwhelmed by what's going on with their money, because money is made up of many moving pieces. You got retirement, you got savings, you got debt, you got this, you got personal loans, you got car loans, you got all this, the vacation, you got all this stuff going on that you're trying to do with the income that's coming in. So the way I lay it out for people is, when this income comes in, what do you want to see it doing? And let's make a plan so that you can see it all in one place, and you know where things are going. You know how much money is in each account, and you're never having to wonder what your money is doing, because you're like the puppet master and you're telling it exactly what to do. So from a bird's eye view, it's basically like a Chick-fil-A drive-through. It's a process, it's a system. And then it's broken down into smaller subsystems that allow you that same ease and control for managing your money. And I wish I share my screen. I would show you guys what it looks like. But that's basically how it looks. You don't want a financial system that has you running from one place to another. You want to be able to make it easy and user-friendly, so that you don't get frustrated, so that you don't feel overwhelmed, and so that you just don't throw in the towel and not want to do it anymore. So if your finances feel that way, that means they're too complicated, and we need to systemize them for you or make them easier so that you feel more in control.
I really love that Chick-fil-A metaphor. Like, it made so much sense, because I'm like, oh, like, your money is the Chick-fil-A, and it's like there's all these demands coming for your money, like going through the drive-through, just trying to like get in, get out. I love that. I love that.
So basically it takes everything, because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes in the Chick-fil-A building. We just see what's happening in the drive-thru. So basically it takes everything that's happening behind the scenes with your money, and it makes it all work in such an order, like a well-oiled machine, that the stuff coming out of that Chick-fil-A or the stuff coming out of that system is just efficiency. Like, so that's exactly what I do with the money management systems that I create for people. I make it so that everything going on behind the scenes brings an output that people want and makes it easier for them to run their lives.
Yes. So, and we had actually this is great. Vanetta asked the question, can we do a screen share of the system? Visuals really help. I think that'll be super helpful. I updated it so you can share your screen if you have anything.
Yeah, I'll pull it up too while we're talking.
But yeah, like, so, and maybe the visual will help as well, but we know we need to create a system. We know we need a Chick-fil-A drive-through for our money. Like, let's just like talk high level, like what are the steps? Like, what are the high level steps that we need to take to actually start building a system for ourselves?
So the first high level step is that you have to come clean with where you are financially. Mm-hmm. Just like for me, when my advisor told me that I was going to be graduating early, and then I didn't even end up graduating early, right? So it was just like, psych. I still took 2 more years. But It's basically you need to come clean with where you are with your finances. Had I not known that we had the $212,000 in debt that didn't include our mortgage, I would have never have even thought about getting my financial life together. Right? Basically what it came down to is that I realized that we were basically one emergency away from bankruptcy. We had no savings to speak of. Again, living this best lie, but we had like no savings to speak of. Like we had no money that we could even use to even get started. Like we were basically just living month to month. And so get clean and clear about who you owe, how much you owe, what the rates are in terms of the interest rates, if you're on a special promotion, when that promotion is going to end, all those different things, and tally that up so you can get what your final number is. Once you've had your final number, the next thing I want you to do is come up with goals. Okay, you want to come up with short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. Short-term is the goal that you can do within 6 to 3 months, 6 weeks to 3 months. Mid-term is going to be 3 months to 6 months, and then the long-term is going to be basically a year and out, right? And then look at those goals and ask yourself, what can I mentally manage handling today? Because you might look at your debt like I had, the $212,000, and if I said I was going to pay off this $212,000 and that was my only goal, then I would have never done it, right? Because who tackles $212,000 of debt like in one sitting? Nobody does. You're overwhelmed. You don't want to do it no more. It's pointless. You won't be able to do it. And so I broke down my goals into mentally manageable pieces. I said, okay, what part of this $212,000 can I handle right now? Right. And so that's how I listed out who I was going to pay first. I'd ask myself, what can I handle right now? And then, because you might be like, well, my student loans are really bad, but then I have this credit card over here that I really hate. Tackle the credit card, because once you get rid of that credit card, you might say, okay, I have this momentum going, I'll be able to do it. And then you can tackle that student loan in bits and pieces as you're working on achieving other goals. And then it really gets to that you have to get on a budget. A budget or a spending plan. I use the words interchangeably, but they're both do the same thing. It's basically a strategic plan for how you are going to spend your money. And so when your money is coming in, the first thing that you want to go to is your essential living expenses. These are the things that you need to survive. It's not Netflix. It's not your nails. It's not your hair. It's your food, it's your mortgage or your rent. It's the things that you need in order to live this life, like be able to live and breathe. Those are your essential expenses. Then whatever's left goes to non-essential. And then it's broken down into savings. And then it's broken down into paying off your debt. So that's basically how the money management system is broken down. But once you have your budget in place, you really be able to systemize everything else going on with your finances. I'm pulling this up.
Whew. I hope y'all are taking notes. I can see a lot of notes, heads are down, like writing, because she is giving you guys these steps.
And I know this sounds very overarching because it really, for me, it's personal finance. I tell people that personal finances is not one size fits all. So I can give you the overview and the basics of it. But when it comes down to creating your personal customized plan, it's going like my plan is going to look vastly different from Marlena's plan, right? Because again, we have different goals, we have different income amounts, we have different things that we're doing in our lives. And so when you get on the internet and you see somebody say, I can make you a budget, I can do this and I can do that, you really have to ask yourself, are you making me a budget that you make everybody? Or are you making a budget that's really going to fit my life and my needs and my dreams and my goals? Because if not, it's not going to work for me.
Yep.
All right, Marlena, and I have this system pulled up.
Cool. You should be able to share now.
Okay, hold on, let me. And guys, you guys are kind of getting the first preview of what the new money management system looks like. That's coming out in my upcoming book. Ooh. So I just wanted to share that with you. Let me see. Share my screen.
Okay.
Let me know when you guys can see it.
Awesome.
Okay. So this is an overview of what the money management system looks like. Again, when I work with clients, it's built out even further because we're adding in the key things that are important for the client. But this is what the money management system looks like. The money management system starts with your income. Let's say if this is a machine, the income is like the gas or the fuel to make the machine run. It doesn't matter how much you make. It doesn't matter how little you make. You still need income in order for your money management system to run. So from your income, it flows down into your budget or your spending plan. Now, in your budget or your spending plan, this is probably one of the most important pieces of your money management system, because with the budget and spending plan, you're telling your money what it needs to do in order to work for you. Your money's not telling you what it's going to do. You are telling your money what it's going to do. So your income is assigned a job. It's assigned a purpose. It's assigned a goal. I don't care what you call it. It gets an assignment, and it doesn't leave your budget spending plan station until it has that assignment. Okay? So once you've assigned your income a job, that income is going to flow into 3 sections of the money management system. It's either going to flow into your living station, which houses your essential expenses and your non-essential expenses, or it's going to flow into your savings station, which houses your retirement savings and non-retirement savings, or it's going to flow into your debt station, which handles like your consumer debt, personal loans, car loans, all that other stuff, medical debt, maybe some loans that you owe to family members. Any type of debt you have is going to go here, right? So that's how that works. Now, let's say that you have your money flow, you've set a goal that you want to save $1,000. Well, in your budget or your spending plan, you've assigned a certain amount of money that it needs to go towards savings. So it'll flow down into your savings station. And once you save that $1,000, your financial goal will be achieved, okay? And once you've achieved that goal, that money no longer needs to flow there, so it'll flow back to your budget or your spending plan as freed up income that you can assign to somewhere else in the system. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I see some heads nodding yes. Okay, so the same thing with your debt. Let's say you have $350 that's been assigned to your car payment so that money will now flow into the debt part of your money management system. Let's say you pay that car off. You no longer need that $350 to flow here because you've achieved that financial goal. And so now it'll flow back into your budget or your spending plan as freed up income so that it can be assigned to somewhere else. And so that is the overarching view of what my money management systems look like.
This is so good to see, because I think that, like, I've been doing something like this. I'm gonna talk about my stuff. We'll talk about, we're gonna take questions soon. So get ready for your questions. But I've had so many different categories that all ladder up to these 3 categories. So I love that you have, given us like higher level, like it's living, it's
right.
safe, it's debt, right? And
so when you think about it, Marlena, does it get overwhelming when you have all those smaller categories?
Exactly.
Right. So I want you to be able to see it. That's my whole goal. Just see it, right? This is Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
Yes.
This is system and order. This is a Chick-fil-A drive-thru. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes here, but when you look at it, it makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel in control. It makes you feel like, you know what, I can do this. And that's really what about financial empowerment is all about. I want you to feel like you can do it, and I want you to walk away saying, you know what, I got this. If you walk away from my coaching and you say, I have no idea what she was talking about, I didn't do my job. And I found that a lot of people feel that way with other, coaching systems. And so with this, I want people to look at it and say, oh, this looks easy. Like, that's what I want you to feel.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like that simplifies so much. And then, like, do you recommend then having an account for like living, savings, and debt? And like, those are your like main accounts, or do you break it down even further from there?
So each of these is a station. And once we get in here, it's broken down a little bit further.
Okay.
Right? So and this is broken down a little bit further, and this is broken down a little bit further. But again, I always tell people, I'm not the type of person that likes to just see money sitting in a savings account. Like that's just not me. Or not a savings account, but just in an account. I have, and actually I'm going to show you guys one more thing, Marlena, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to show you guys one more thing. Basically, I have accounts for like everything. And let me see if I still have it on here.
And you may have to exit out and come back in.
Okay, I'm just pulling it up so I can. Okay. Here it is. Perfect. Here it is. So I'm gonna exit this one out, and then show you guys what this looks like. Let me share one more screen. So having a lot of people, I have like 13 plus different savings accounts. Like somebody's like, how do you have that? People are like, that's too many. It's hard to manage. It's not, because at any given time, I can open up the app, Capital One 360 app, and I can know how much money is in each account, how many goals have already been funded, how much I need to fund another goal, things like that. So I'm going to share this screen. Let me know you guys can see that.
Yep.
Okay, so this is what the Capital One 360 platform looks like when you're online. And so basically, I don't have anything written here, but let's say that this was you saving up for a house. You know that you have saved $30,000 up towards saving up for a house, right? Let's say this is your vacation fund. You can automatically look at it and say, okay, I've saved $1,000 towards vacation. Or this could be your whole business account, and this is how much money you have saved up for your business. This is how much money you have set aside for the different things that you have going on in your business, right? And so this is kind of what I show clients when I tell them about opening up different accounts. When you look at this, you're not just seeing $30,000. You're like, period, like this is more than $30,000 if you add it up. But you see now, okay, I have $30,000 for this goal. I've already saved up, $3,500 to down payment on a car. I have $600 saved for Christmas. I have this, I have that. Now you know exactly what's going on with all that money without having to look back at a sheet that you have written on or try to remember how much you had earmarked for this or that. It just makes life so much easier to be able to see things in a systematic view. Again, Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
Yes. This is so good. So good. I see Adiola talking about systems, just systems simplify and save lives, period. They do.
Yeah. So that's basically, I basically did, for me, when I first started coaching, I felt like I was confusing people because there were so many different moving pieces. And I was like, you know what, how do I make this easier? How do I make this so I can teach it in an easier way? And so that clients can look at it and be like, boom, they get it, right? And so that's basically what I wanted to create. I wanted to break things down into mentally manageable pieces for people managing their money.
This is so good. This is so good. So we're a little bit over our 40 minutes, but I want to ask you like one more question before we get into our
I'm sorry. I know me going off and like sharing that.
No, don't be sorry. No, this is we needed all of what you just shared. And that's why I am more than happy. Hopefully y'all are cool with us going a little bit over the interview time, because this is like so helpful. Yes, I love it. So, as we get into, I think all of us are encouraged to create a system for our finances now. So what are some pitfalls, if you can think of any, that we might need to look out for when we're creating a financial plan like this, and how we can avoid them?
So the biggest pitfall that I see people, it's one of the most immediate ones, is that you're thinking that you're going to climb the mountain in one day. You're not, right? So even with the $212,000 in debt that I had, I knew that I couldn't handle it in one day. It was going to take time. And so if you add up all your money and you see, add up all your debt and you see how much you have, don't let that number scare you away from the process. Remember, this is a process. So in the beginning, you need to know how much money you have, and then you need to come up with a plan, how much money, how much debt you have. I wish I had that much money. It wasn't debt. How much debt you have, and then come up with the plan. Okay, how am I going to strategically conquer this? And I say strategically a lot because there has to be a strategy behind what you're doing. You can't just say, you know what, instead of me paying off this one bill, I'm going to put a little bit to Target, a little bit to Express, a little bit to my Citi card, because you're not getting anywhere. You're still going to be in that same stagnant spot. But if you say, okay, I just brought in an extra $1,000 in my business that can actually go to my profit, that I can take out of my business, that I can use for myself, you can take that extra $1,000 and actually put it towards paying off that card. So boom, you got that card paid off. Now you can roll that minimum payment that you were paying towards that card into what you're going to put towards the next card. Right. So that's called the debt snowball system. And a lot of people might have heard of that from like Dave Ramsey and stuff like that. He didn't come up with that. He made it popular. I like to add that to you. But that's a thing that you can do. So don't think that you're going to climb the mountain in one day. Okay. Don't get discouraged when you start your budget, if you're new to budgeting, if it doesn't work out the first, second, or third month that you're doing it. You're building new habits, and habits take time, especially when they come to money, and especially with you changing your lifestyle, because this is going to be a huge lifestyle change. For me, I don't recommend people doing what I did. I went cold turkey. I was like, I'm not spending any money. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And I began to, even though we were paying off tons of debt, I was resenting the life that I was living because all I was doing was paying off debt. And so you have to be able to add in some living in whatever process you have going on, right? And so you have to ask people, what's your non-negotiable? What's the one thing in this process that you are not going to give up? Some of my clients are like, I'm not giving up my nails. I'm not giving up going out to eat. I'm not giving up massages. Okay, if you're not going to give that up, let's work that into the money management system so that there's money available for it. So look at what your non-negotiable is. Look at what goals you realistic goals, and realistic goals, because some people will say, "Oh, I can live off just $100 for my grocery budget." No, but you can't. You can't, right? So, I know people want to pay off debt as fast as they can, but we have to be realistic in this whole process, right? So, be realistic, know your numbers, know what your non-negotiable is, and what is your goal. Each month say, okay, this month, what is your goal for the month? If you say my goal is just to pay all my bills on time, and you do it, celebrate that win, because that was a huge lifestyle change for you. That was a huge habit change for you. So it should be celebrated. If your goal is to pay $100 or to put $100 in your savings each month and you achieve those goals, celebrate it. So those are some things that you can do to really get started. And I have tons of information on the blog. Again, the book called Start Here, Your Blueprint for Creating Your Money Management System is coming out next month. No, Marlena, next month. So be on the lookout for that. And again, guys, I share tons and tons of information on my Instagram and things like that. If you have any questions, you can always ask too.
Yes, thank you so much. And, while we're here on that topic, because I think we're going to just go ahead and get into question and answer session, but we will, I want to know, how can we work with you? What is your website and your Instagram so we can keep in touch?
Yes, so all my social media handles are at Broke on Purpose for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The website is www.livebrokeonpurpose.com. And if you want to work with me, you can either go through the either go through the website and go through coaching there, or you can go through my Instagram links and you can sign up for coaching there. I do always start off with discovery calls, just to be honest with people, because I want to make sure that I'm a good fit for the client and the client is a good fit for me. And I don't want us to waste our times. So I always start off with coaching calls. Discovery calls, just to see if we're going to be a good fit, and then we move from there.
Perfect. Well, there you have it. You gave us so much to chew on, so much actionable strategy to work on. Thank you so much for sharing all that you shared and giving us a sneak peek at what's coming next month. I'm so excited. So thank you so much for being here, Melody. We really appreciate it having you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And there you have it. So I'm going to